Hi everyone. This week we're moving on to talk about data collection. For this week, your assigned reading was 2 chapters in your textbook, chapters 7 and 10. Chapter 7 covers approaches to data collection, and chapter 10 revisits the issue of validity and evaluation. So when we think of data collection, we often focus on the actual, obtaining of data, of whether it's interviews or observations or what have you. We often just think of that piece, but there are actually quite a few data collection activities. First, we have to locate a site and potential participants. We need to gain access to that site and make sure we have permission to be there and to reach the people we want to reach. We need to choose a sampling strategy and be purposeful about who is included in our study. Then there's the actual collecting of data, but we also have to find a way to record it. We might have to resolve issues as they arise in the field, and we have to have a plan for data storage and management. So there's actually quite a few steps that take place. The main approaches to data collection in qualitative research are interviews, and these can be done individually or in groups. Observations are often part of qualitative studies. We could look at document analysis and even the inclusion of audiovisual materials. In some cases, in many cases actually, these approaches can be combined. So just to share a few examples from the literature of different approaches to data collection, this study by Renee Padilla, Clara, A Phenomenology of Disability, relied very heavily on interviews. And what was really interesting about this paper is that there was a combination of in-person and email interviews. And this is kind of a classic study in the occupational therapy literature, so I would encourage you to take a look at this. An example of observation, where observation was, I would say, the primary data collection approach, was this ethnographic study by Cheryl Mattingly. And a lot of this particular report is her observations of popular culture in a clinical situation. This study is by Florendez et al., which I was actually part of, is a qualitative analysis of treatment notes from a randomized control study to better understand the phenomenon of pressure ulcer development in adults with spinal cord injury. And then an example of audiovisual materials is a study by Tomar and Stoffel using an approach called photo voice, where the participants actually go out and take photographs, and that sort of leads the interview process. So again, I would encourage you to take a look at any of these studies if you want to have some examples. They're not required reading for this course, but it's good to look to the literature to see how things have been done and reported. In Chapter 10, we revisit the topic of validation and evaluation of qualitative research, and we talked about some of these steps earlier in the semester about confirmation and transferability and these concepts. So this is just a review, but thinking about how these processes would be integrated into the data collection process, and also thinking about how the criteria for evaluating a qualitative study are going to be different for the different research approaches. For example, what criteria might you use in a narrative, in evaluating a narrative study, compared to what you might think of for a case study? So these are just some things to think about. It's in the chapter, so read through that and think about that for your own planning, your own data collection process. Here are the references for this week, and I look forward to our ongoing discussions and any of your questions.